Americans only learn about World War II in terms of global history. And even then, they don't know shit about World War II. And I feel like Trump fits that bill perfectly. He's like, Hitler was strong, he was powerful, and I like that. We need to be more like him. He's like, doesn't know anything else. Yeah, Donald Trump is being blasted by his former chief of staff once again. There was some quotes, there were some choice words on The Atlantic talking about how Donald Trump wanted generals like Hitler, possibly not recognizing that Hitler's generals did try to assassinate him, at least the ones that weren't on as many methamphetamines. The rest of them were all on methamphetamines. Actually, as a matter of fact, many of them were on just straight up meth. Some of them wanted to kill him for some, for one reason or another. Don't really know why he said that. Don't really fully understand it. Brian Kilmeade running defense for that line is pretty awesome, though. I really like it. Anyway, let's watch this first. Like, let's get a better understanding of what the Trump was saying. He also had a classic bar, apparently, where he was like, why is the funeral of a Mexican so expensive? Don't pay that shit.
Breaking news this morning, Robin. Retired Marine General John Kelly. He was Trump's longest serving chief of staff, and he is speaking out right now with things we have never heard before from someone who has served a president. He says Donald Trump fits the definition of a fascist. He says that Donald Trump praised Adolf Hitler, demeaned American war heroes, calls Donald Trump a man who would govern like a dictator if allowed.
And George, this comes as more billionaires are entering the race, donating millions, including reportedly Bill Gates. Our team is covering both campaigns and all the angles this morning. We're going to start with the latest on the Trump campaign, and Rachel Scott is tracking it from North Carolina. Good morning, Rachel.
Michael, good morning to you. John Kelly was one of Donald Trump's closest advisors, his longest serving chief of staff. And this morning, with just days to go until this election, he is now painting a picture of a former president and Republican nominee who has no regard for the Constitution or rule of law, warning that he would rule as a dictator if he could.
This morning with the...
I mean, what part of this is like new information, low key? Like, I feel like not a single piece of this was a new revelation for me. I don't know. Maybe I've paid too much attention to politics, but it's like who the f*** is going to be like, wow, I'm shocked. You mean to tell me that the guy who said he's going to be a dictator on day one for one day, but he's going to be a dictator, also said it behind closed doors? Like, bitch, he said it in public. He said it in a rally. He said it in a rally in front of his fans. And you know what they did? They went, hell yes, sir. Let's go. It's not like he ever hid this. Like, this is straight up what he wants to do. Not only is this straight up what he wants to do, but he's also like the only thing stopping him, I think, from getting there. This Kelly story on Trump wanting to be Hitler is as close to an October surprise as you can get. Trump's own former top 8 issuing a dire warning. Never seen anything like this. Yeah, except I'm losing my mind. If the Democrats thought that this was the October surprise, this is the least surprising October surprise of all time. Like, virtually all of Trump's fans literally look at that and go, I like that. I don't know how to describe this, okay? I don't like that. I openly say that this is a problem, among many other reasons. But a lot of the base does not care. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if you could do an October surprise for Donald Trump because, I mean, this had all of the surprises. He had all the surprises. He was the grab him by the pussy tape and shit. Like, none of that worked. The only thing that worked was 4 years of Donald Trump and a world-changing pandemic, like a global shift that basically locked people into their homes. And when they were locked into their homes, their fucking relatives were dying, as Donald Trump went on television every day and was like, just inject bleach, you'll be fine. COVID is like, it's whatever. It's neither here nor there. Shut the fuck up. Yada, yada. Ivermectin. Use ivermectin. Horse dewormer for everybody. All this shit frustrated Americans so much that they were like, nah, I can't do this again. I don't want to look at the TV again. That's what worked. Now, the problem is 4 years have gone by since then, and Americans are notoriously bad at remembering shit. And the Democratic Party is also kind of bad at running a good campaign and reminding people of how bad it was. So this kind of stuff is, I don't know. I don't know if it moves the needle. You know what I mean? I just don't know. Because he would say stuff like this all the time while he was president. He said stuff like this all the time after he, was no longer president. He tried to do January 6th. It was funny as but like he did still try to do it. Luckily, it was only funny because they're so goddamn incompetent and stupid. But like, I don't know. I don't know what to like. I think people kind of have made their minds up on Trump. They know that he's like this and they like it. That's perhaps a much more damaging part of this story. Like that's more damaging to American politics in general. There's going to be like long historical shifts happening in this country for generations to come post Donald Trump. So I don't know. I think through the insanity, we understate how dangerous this shit is, though. I mean, you are not going to be able to explain to like the median voter that's like swinging for Trump that this is damaging for them, because Trump was president for 4 years, right? And if they forgot about how bad it was, now they're just going to literally look at this shit and be like, yeah, I don't give a f-. You know what I mean? Like he was president for 4 years. He was. And a lot of Americans remember what they choose to remember from back then. This type of stuff, on the other hand, I mean, who knows? This type of shit, on the other hand, is in the opposite vein of like they are. This is, I would say, narratively speaking, the exact opposite of weird. Weird was such a good way to deflate the Republican Party's momentum because a lot of that machismo revolves around making your enemies suffer. A lot of people were like, yeah, we are terrifying, and you want to vote for us for that reason because we're making these pussy-ass libs cower in fear. When they started saying he was weird, they were like, wait, whoa, we're not weird. We're normal. We're not weird. We're normal as f-. Weird deflated the fears that the American population would have. But then again, I think simultaneously they thought, well, if we're making a suburbs play, then we can't say he's weird. We have to say he's scary and undemocratic. So they just dropped the weird shit. In my opinion, weird was solid. It was an incredibly solid way to message and be like, why are you focusing on this dumb shit? This doesn't help people. This doesn't put food on people's tables. You're weird for that. Weird was laughing at the MAGA cult. Scary is being scared of the MAGA cult. And the MAGA cult loves being scary. They don't have any issues being scary. They do also, on the other hand, have issues being laughed at. They don't like it. Now, the other part of this that is also stupid is that the Democrats, on the one hand, are like, these guys are scary. They're going to do scary shit. While simultaneously being like, these scary guys, we also are adopting some of their policies. We are basically accepting their framing on issues like immigration. That, in my opinion, is inconsistent. Like it's an inconsistent way to run a campaign, which is why there are, in my opinion, alarm bells in terms of like alarming poll results coming out in terms of 4% of Biden voters in 2020 swinging in Trump's direction versus 3% of Trump voters in 2020 swinging in Kamala's direction. So Trump is still picking up more Biden voters than Kamala is picking up Trump voters, in spite of the fact that the Democrats have aggressively tacked right over and over and over again. So I just don't know. I don't know where this goes. I think they are hemorrhaging their base every single time they do this. Can we get your thoughts on this? I never knew you thought this. I do think this. Yes. We should replace oxygen with swag. I'm a swagapino, like Pinoy Gang. I really said this. I really did this. This is real. That's so funny. Thinking that I own a Tumblr account. Come on, chat. Yeah, Pinoy Gang. I'm swagapino for life. But let's get back to it.
The campaign entering its final days. Donald Trump's former chief of staff and retired General John Kelly with a blistering rebuke of the Republican nominee for president, calling him a fascist with no concept for the rule of law or the Constitution.
Certainly, the former president is in the far right area. He's certainly an authoritarian, admires people who are dictators. He has said that. So he certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, for sure.
Kelly describing how Trump would praise Nazi leader Adolf Hitler, who orchestrated the systematic murder of 6 million Jews.
I think Trump fits the bill on Americans so perfectly, which is, what is that age-old adage? I think it was a tweet where it was like, Americans only learn about World War II in terms of global history, and even then, they don't know shit about World War II. And I feel like Trump fits that bill perfectly. He's like, Hitler was strong, he was powerful, and I like that. We need to be more like him. He's like, doesn't know anything else, okay? Like, that's why I always thought it was very funny when people were like, Donald Trump has a copy of Mein Kampf on his bedside table. Like, you think this reads books, let alone Mein Kampf? Like, are you insane? There is 0% chance that this guy is like ideologically a Nazi. Like, he doesn't care about anything but himself. Okay? He does not care about he's too much of a narcissist to be a ideologically committed fascist. Okay? He just knows like the overall vibes of certain things. He's like, Blitzkrieg seems like a good way to take over. 100% people put the Wehrmacht generals on a pedestal, but remember they started losing from 1941 to 45 nonstop after blunders, which is why they all attributed it to Hitler, but it's mostly a shared blame. It wasn't even Mein Kampf as a book of Hitler speeches. Yeah, I don't think so. Ah, yes, the age-old adage that is not even 5 years old. Okay, whatever. I'm presenting a Twitter meme as a age-old adage. All right, give me a break, dude. Anyway, interesting political analysis here. What do you think? What is the political analysis? Kamala is either going to win or lose this election. I agree. Hitler was also a narcissist. Yes, many of these guys are. But I think beyond that, he very clearly was ideologically committed to fascism. He was very committed to an anti-Semitic understanding of the world. Like, I don't think Donald Trump cares about anything beyond himself. Nate Silver called it. Breaking, Nate Silver predicts that Donald Trump will win the 2024 election. My gut says Donald Trump, and my guess is that it is true for many anxious Democrats. Nate Silver, here's what my gut says about the election, but don't trust anyone's gut, even mine. Okay, if Nate Silver is predicting a Donald Trump victory, I think Kamala's got this in the bag, okay? That's all I'm going to say. I think that these guys are still, like a lot of these dudes, I think, are still reeling from the massive disparity, the massive disparity in polls in terms of like in 2016 overall. Like, they're still reeling from that, so they're just like overcooking the polls, swinging it in Trump's direction. Now, that might still happen because Trump is pretty good at like randomly pulling turnout from areas that you would have never imagined. Okay? The guy that you talk to every day, your coworker that believes in the most insane shit, okay? That only consumes Joe Rogan, that probably purchased ivermectin during COVID. Like, that guy has never voted. He might vote for Trump this time. Like, he's very good at that shit. He is. So I think while polls, like pollsters in general, are, I know him? Yeah, I know all of your coworkers. I have met your coworkers, okay? Wait, what? You think they found the Trump N-word tape? You're about to see insanely desperate stuff from the Democrats. Expect deepfake AI-generated crap about Trump coming soon. Stay focused and vote. Journalist Mark Halperin, I've been pitched a story about Donald Trump for about a week that, if true, would end his campaign. By the way, excuse me, if you consider deepfake AI-generated crap to be insanely desperate, what does that say about the Republican campaign that literally did that with Tim Walz like last week? Last week, Tim Walz, there was a AI-generated deepfake video that came out that was like, I was Tim Waltz's student and he like had sex with me. He f***ed me when I was a child. And everyone was like, hell yeah, I can't believe it happened. It's like, dude, this is the fakest shit of all time. This is literally the fakest shit of all time. And they did that. They did that, and now I think they're projecting. That's all I'm saying. This was the quoted tweet they blocked through Jack Poso's screen cap. Yeah, it says they will deepfake Trump saying something he didn't. Screenshot this. I mean, they could be gearing up. They could be gearing up potentially. I don't know. They could be gearing up potentially for like an N-word tape or whatever. Or it literally is just they're just saying that. Like, I don't know if the Republican operatives are aware that there is like something out there that's really going to kill Donald Trump's chances. I also don't even think, I'm going to be honest with you, the Trump N-word tape, okay, the Trump N-word tape, I don't think would actually hurt him that much. That's it. I don't think it would, it might even help him at this point. I don't even know what the f is going on with American politics, okay? But I just don't think it would, I don't think it would like hurt his chances. But then again, I don't know. Americans don't respond to people being racist. Americans don't respond to people being racist until someone says the N-word. And even then, they're still like, I don't know. Did he say it with a hard R or with a soft A? Did he say it while reading Tom Sawyer? Like, never underestimate the average American's ability to find objectively racist behavior. Not that racist, okay? They will always find a way to be like, I don't know, this seems contextually appropriate. It was 20 years ago. You've said it too. Who amongst us hasn't said it? I said it last week. I'm not racist. It's like, really? Really? Is that what that means? Yeah, okay. That's cool. Weird that you would just acknowledge that. Okay. So, you know, there's a lot of drama, but let's see. But you know, Trump is heavily pursuing black men as a voting bloc. Yes, dude, I know that it's not as significant of a drop off for like it's not that significant of a. This is what happens when you're media brained. Okay, you watch too much media, and then you assume that the things you read on CNN or watch on CNN and MSNBC are prescient, important. Let me tell you why it's not. Okay, black men voting for Trump by 20% is still so marginal and significantly lower per capita in terms of the same exact demographic with the same exact educational attainment for white men and for Hispanic men. Okay, that's it. Like, it's not that significant of a voting block for the Republican Party. But having said that, the Trump N-word tape, I don't know how much, I don't know how much motion it has at this point. Yeah, is black men famous for voting for a Republican unlike white men? Yeah, exactly. That's why it's so stupid. It's like, it's not. It's people hyper focus on this, like, people hyper focus on this marginal shift, which is literally smaller overall than every other racial group in terms of their voting patterns, especially if they have I can't even talk, especially if they do not have higher education like a college degree. It's kind of silly. All right, let's see.
It caused World War II.
He commented more than once that, you know, that Hitler did some good things too.
Kelly's
like what? Yo! He's like, the Autobahn. He was a big union buster. I like that. I like it a lot. No unions put a lot of socialists in prison. Big fan. This is like the National Review guy. Whether or not he said it doesn't matter if he's saying it on In Other Words Daily. Exactly. Thank you. That is usually my perspective. Okay. That is usually my point, which is, why look for weird symbolisms to extract some kind of ideological tilt when they are on main openly communicating their desires? This guy wants to do militarized concentration camps for non-whites, okay? Sure, he's using undocumented immigrants as the substitute for that, but that's precisely what he's doing. And many of these people who he's calling undocumented, sometimes saying they're eating cats and dogs or any number of different psychopathic things that he says, are straight up documented temporary protected status migrants, as in they have the paperwork. So what is it then? If they have the paperwork and you're still calling them illegal aliens and you're saying they're rapists and murderers, when the actual data shows that they do significantly less crime per capita than natural born U.S. citizens, then why are you saying this? There's got to be some other motivation behind it, right? Yeah, that motivation is white supremacy. I'm sorry. That is just exactly what it is.
His on-the-record first-hand account following similar reporting in The Atlantic, including a private conversation at the White House, where, according to Kelly, Trump asked why his generals couldn't be more like Hitler's generals.
Well, I tell him that. I said, if you, first of all, you should never say that. But if you knew what Hitler was all about from the beginning to the end, everything he did was in support of his racist, fascist life, philosophy, so that nothing he did you could argue was good.
The Trump campaign calling that an outrageous lie. Just as the New York Times published their interview with Kelly, Trump was on stage in Greensboro, North Carolina, praising authoritarian leaders like Chinese President Xi and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
He's smart. He's a smart man. He's a fierce man. I got along with him very well. Putin, these are people that are tough people.
Kelly insisting to the Times, if given the chance, Trump would rule as a dictator himself.
Oh, I think he'd love to be. I think he'd love to be just like he was in business. He could tell people to do things and they would do it, and not really bother too much about whether what the legalities were.
Kelly also says Trump often questioned why people would serve the country in uniform.
Is it dangerous to compare such a goofy showman like Trump to Hitler? People won't necessarily see the connection because he presents as a kind of normal guy on the podcast and you ended up normalizing Hitler. No, I don't think it's dangerous to compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. What the Dude, why do people learn about history? Why learn about Hitler at all? Why learn about the Nazis at all? Why learn about the Holocaust at all? If not to understand how they got there, okay? And in order to never repeat it again. No, I will never abide by this principle of like, I will never abide by this principle that like, oh, well, Hitler was like way more dangerous and way more unique than someone like Donald Trump, which many of our neighbors want to vote for. It's like, no, dog, that's the point. Your neighbors are turning into Nazis, okay? Your neighbors are literally in the early stages of fascism. The only thing that stops American fascism from becoming a militant, mechanized movement in the same way that it did in Nazi Germany is the fact that they're too busy eating jalapeno poppers. Okay? That's it. That's it. Straight up. If it happens in a serialized fashion where they don't have to think about it, Americans will be on board. Trust me. If they can still eat their jalapeno poppers, if they can still get their treats in the same way, they will literally let it happen. They will not even think about it. They'll be like, yeah, whatever. Oh, what's that on the chimney back there? I don't know. Why is there so much smoke and a weird scent? Why is ash raining upon this village now? You know? I don't know. Whatever. F it. Let's go to Chili's, big dog. You know, football's on. That's it. That's the American mentality. Check. Cream cheese or cheddar cheese filling for poppers? Ooh, both. How about both? Get dangerous with it. By the way, I say jalapeno poppers as a joke for those of you who don't know. If you're new here, I don't know, but I love jalapeno poppers. Obviously, it's peak American innovation.
Uniform and referred to service members who were injured or killed as losers and suckers multiple times, something the former president has repeatedly denied.
Is not wanting to be seen with amputees that lost their limbs in defense of this country.
This I 100% believe. Like that straight up. I don't care about anything else. John Kelly, he's a giant piece of shit. Maybe he's lying. Maybe he's being honest. Out of every statement that he has made, that right there is on the money. That is primo Trump, okay? He is already disgusted by like he's already genuinely disgusted by like the average hog that loves him. He is ashamed of them. Like, he likes the admiration, but he always wants to be at an arm's distance. You could tell, like, he always like, get the fat pig off the couch and get him to vote for me. And they love it. They love when he calls them fat pigs, fat little piglets. But he is not gonna, he doesn't want to be seen around amputees. They're like, it's disgusting. I don't like it. I like my veterans without their shit blown off. Yeah.
He's fighting for every American, to him included, to protect them, but didn't want to be seen with them.
Kelly, a retired 4-star Marine general who spent 45 years in uniform, lost his own son in combat in Afghanistan. He was handpicked by Trump to lead the Department of Homeland Security before serving as his longest chief of staff.
General Kelly will go down in terms of the position of chief of staff, one of the great ever.
He says he made the decision to speak out now after Trump talked about using the military against what he called the enemy within.
I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
In a statement, the Trump campaign writing, John Kelly has totally beclowned himself, calling the stories fabricated, and adding Trump has always honored the service and sacrifice of all of our military men and women.
More than 19 million Americans have already cast their ballots participating in early voting. John Kelly insists he is not trying to tell people how to vote, but he is asking this country to consider character over policy, George.
And that all comes from someone who served former President Trump. We're also learning, we have new reporting on who Trump is considering for a second term if he wins.
Yes, George, this is exclusive reporting from our teams here at ABC News. Sources telling us that Judge Eileen Cannon, the federal judge who dismissed the case against the former president for his alleged mishandling of classified documents, is now being considered for the position of Attorney General should Donald Trump win the White House. We are told this is all part of a list put together by one of Donald Trump's closest advisors, Boris Epstein. We are also learning that other transition documents also include several other controversial options, including Jeffrey Clark, someone who has pleaded not guilty after being indicted to Georgia for his alleged handling and participation in trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election. George, we have reached out to the Trump campaign.
Does this stuff work at all? I mean, I know that this is definitely the type of shit that works with like the suburbia voters, right? But like, oh, Trump hates the military. He's gross. Like all this shit. But like, so many people voted for him after he like straight up said John McCain was a loser for getting owned, like for getting kidnapped by, not even kidnapped, like just getting held hostage by the Viet Cong. Like he just said, I like my heroes to not be held hostage. Like it didn't matter. You know what I mean? Veterans still overwhelmingly voted for him. Like I don't think that you are going TDS much. I can't wait to watch your live feed after the election. You think your TDS is bad now, huh? Dude, go for 06. I cannot begin to explain to you how little your life is going to move in a positive direction under a second Trump presidency. Okay? I cannot even begin to explain to you how much more Trump cares about someone like myself because I'm lumped under a different tax bracket than you, than someone like yourself. Okay? Like, I don't think you understand. I don't think you comprehend this. He does not give a about you. He only cares about corporations and the wealthy and a select few people that are sucking his dick. Okay? That's it. TDS, for those of you who don't know, is Trump derangement syndrome. It's something that Trump supporters used to say all the time, like, oh, you care too much about Trump. Like, if you have ever listened, if you're a Trump supporter, you probably do not have the mental cognition to understand any of the words that are coming out of my mouth. But if you're a Trump supporter and you're in here, you probably have heard me say a bunch of stuff about how Trump is not that different in very meaningful ways in terms of his policy than the average American. But also simultaneously, I've talked about how Trump has redesigned American politics in his own vision. Anyway, you can say TDS much all day, every day. Ultimately, what you fail to consider is that Donald Trump in the 4 years of his presidency didn't actually improve your material conditions even remotely. As a matter of fact, it made it worse. Trump's tax cuts, for example, that was one of the pivotal accomplishments of his legislative agenda, are slated to sunset in 2015 for you, Okay. You know whose tax cuts he made permanent? Mine. That's number one. Now, having said that, those tax cuts for you were already marginal to begin with. Did I say 2020? Did I say 2015? 2025. I apologize. Okay. His deregulatory agenda, his crippling of the federal agencies are going to make your life worse in a very meaningful way. Putting mass deportations, okay, creating private prison structures to at the federal level once again, specifically to concentrate undocumented migrants or people who are suspected of being undocumented migrants in dragnet procedures that they engage in, is not going to improve your life. As a matter of fact, it's going to make your life worse. Okay? But it doesn't matter. I will never be able to explain this to you because you're a Trump supporter. So it doesn't matter. In your mind, you think, well, libs are getting owned. I feel better. But you don't. And you didn't. When he was president, you did not. Okay? Stop threatening MAGA hogs with a good time. They like that shit. I know. I'm moving beyond. I'm looking to a second Trump presidency, a second Trump term, and how it's not going to improve his life, just like his first term did not improve this person's life. That's my point. Why is jailing and deporting criminals bad? Remind me that. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that like every undocumented migrant was automatically a criminal. There are things that are considered crimes that are not that consequential. Okay, crossing over a border specifically to gain like employment is not a crime that is as severe as like mass deportation, especially if you've lived here for multiple years, have a family here, have children here. Not being documented is a crime for me. Yeah, I don't know if you understand this, and you probably don't understand anything, really. But the difference between an undocumented person and a documented person is just paperwork. You understand that? It's just paperwork. It's a very simple process. Okay? Not being documented is a crime for me. Okay. You have to move beyond this. Okay? You have to move beyond this and explain to me why you think it is bad that these people are here. The saying, a Trump supporter will eat a shit sandwich so that a lib can smell their breath, sums up the mentality perfectly. This stuff for Trump doesn't work, and DNC never learns that. The people who vote for Trump don't give a fuck about him being fascist or not presidential. I know. This kind of stuff is, I think, small fry. I'll be honest with you. In comparison to the much more consequential deregulatory agenda of Donald Trump and the significantly more consequential white nativist immigration policy that Trump will be pushing for and has been pushing for. Because they cut corners, there's people who want to come legally and they take their place. That is, what? Here we have proof in the pudding once again that Republicans do not know a single thing about the causes that they supposedly are very passionate about. What the are you talking about? That is not how this works at all. Okay, they cut corners. No, they don't. Half the people that you're talking about that are undocumented migrants are actually not even undocumented. They are documented. They have TPS, okay? Something that Trump also offered them, including the Venezuelans that he calls, rapist criminals who are overtaking, apartment complexes in Aurora. Donald Trump literally extended TPS status to Venezuelans on his way out, okay? Haitians that Donald Trump also offered temporary protected status to as well. These people are legally here, okay? They have the documentation. They're not undocumented migrants. You are calling them illegal immigrants, even though they have the proper paperwork. If you are talking about all these people, I do believe that women and children deserve asylum, though. Oh, thanks, man. Thank God. This guy's like, yeah, women and children only, okay? Anyway, there is no finite amount. There is no like, oh, we simply can't process these documented immigrants because undocumented immigrants are coming over the border. That's not how that works, okay? As a matter of fact, put yourself in the shoes of a person who is growing up in Guatemala and they're like, there is no job. There are no jobs for me here. There's political instability here. I am going to make the trek all the way to the United States of America so I can pick strawberries in a field in California for like 10 cents. Okay, that mentality. Do you think that guy, if given the opportunity to properly go through the regular channels and get the paperwork necessary to be able to work and get gainful employment in a lawful fashion, would not take it? No, the reason why these people do it is because there is no legal pathway to immigration. As a matter of fact, our reactionary white nativist anti-immigrant agenda unironically funds the cartels. It helps the cartels. It creates a system of cartels transporting these people over the border. Greg Kazar had a really good take on this. I don't know if someone can find it. I'm most likely going to have him on the stream sometime soon. But this is an argument for illegal immigrants since they free up spots for legal immigrants in the queue. Yeah. Chatters that come in here to yab about legal immigrants show that they aren't being affected by the migrant border crisis, because if it was a really crisis, you wouldn't be wasting your time hate watching on Twitch. Get a job, chatter. Yeah. The American immigration system, the legal process is pay to play. Okay. If you're wealthy, you can come in here immediately tomorrow. It doesn't fucking matter. If you're poor, you're okay. You're just never coming in. It'll take 20 goddamn years. And many people do not have 20 goddamn years to immigrate. That's it. Hate watching is still juicing Hasanabi numbers. Chatter is not very bright. I know. My haters are my greatest motivators. Okay. Hi. All right, let's continue.
Campaign for comment. They have not gotten back to us, George.
Right, and of course, Judge Kennedy has received so much criticism from others in the legal community over those decisions in the Trump case.
So yesterday we learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired
Yeah, in the words of my favorite turkey defender, Eric Adams, haters are my waiters on the table of success. I have to pee. I'll be back.
four-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear about who he considers to be the enemy from within. Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify, in his mind, as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials. It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room. And it is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one and vowed to use the military as his personal militia.
It's a good deal that Democrats certainly don't have anyone that is remotely like Donald Trump on their side, including but not limited to a guy who literally is worse than Donald Trump, for the record. And I will say this, I will stand on this. Dick Cheney and the George W. Bush administration was more harmful to the planet than Donald fucking Trump was. Okay? That's true. There is no other way to cut it. This is something that liberals get very pissy about, and they did when we were talking about, are you saying that countries shouldn't have their unique demographics, so USA with 80% non-American population in 50 years is okay? What are you fantasizing about? First of all, when people come here, they become American, okay? You understand that, right? Well, you don't. You don't understand that at all. You probably don't understand that you are talking to someone who came here when he was 18 years old, as a matter of fact. I was born here because I'm very fortunate. I'm an anchor baby, but that's besides the point. I literally am virtually indistinguishable from the average American, and yet I came here when I was 18. The f*** is wrong with you? There is nothing magical about like what zip code you started at, okay? I just want to say that the Hitler shit you were saying earlier is so important. My Mexican uncles defend their decision to vote for Trump by saying he wouldn't actually do that insane stuff he says he will do. Then why are you voting for him? Anyway.
To carry out his personal and political vendettas. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable.
What the wildest thing about this is that these people will say, like, Donald Trump is Hitlerian, okay? Which is fair. It's correct. So why the are you running on his 2020 border policy? Like, that shit was Hitlerian too. I don't understand. I don't think that there is an appetite for this, okay, in the Democratic base of support. There is no appetite for this. They look at one poll that says 60% of Americans want mass deportation. And that same poll also says 60% of Americans want amnesty, pathway to amnesty for undocumented migrants living on U.S. soil that haven't caused any crimes or whatever, right? And they just choose to ignore that other side of the poll and look at the mass deportation part and go, I'm so scared. If we don't do lighter version of mass deportation, we're How about putting up a fight for once, dude? How about standing for your values? You have no values.
And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there, and no longer be there to rein him in. So the bottom line is this. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want? Thank you.
Vice President Kamala Harris, in 13 days we will find out what the American people want. Let's bring in our US correspondent Mark Stone, joining us now from DC. And Mark, great to have you with us. Look, Kamala Harris there, quoting from an interview I think John Kelly had given to the New York Times, perhaps others. He was Trump's longest-serving chief of staff. She talked about him describing Trump as meeting the definition of a fascist, and also saying that Trump would want to govern like a dictator. Why has Kamala Harris come out now to say these things from this John Kelly interview, do you think?
I thought Sky News was conservative. Dude, the peak of British conservatism still doesn't hold a candle to like how nutty Americans get. American conservatism is in a league of its own. It's like, imagine if the entire right was the Reform Party, like in the UK. Reform Plus, you know? CNN says that the real Hitlers are on college campuses. Wait, what?
If you're worried about Hitler and you're talking about Donald Trump, maybe open your eyes and take in what's happening on the American left.
Dude, CNN is so insane, bro. What the are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing, dude? What are they doing?
Those are the Hitlers I'm worried about.
Let me address this, but I also want to keep on the subject that we're talking about.
Let me also just...
If you're worried about Hitler...
The real Hitlers are on the college campuses, dude? Yeah, dude. The non-binary English major that's like what Israel is doing is really f***ed up in terms of baby murder. That's the real Adolf Hitler, dude. What the ah! Please tell me they push back. Well, I don't know if they can, really, because, you know, they kind of also believe that. So, Yeah, the real Hitlers on campus are pro-Palestine folks like me, Jewish, who have gotten arrested for protesting mass slaughter. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Are the walls closing in? Yes. Yes. I do not know where we go from here, but I do not think that we are going to a positive direction. I do not think that the trajectory of this country is a positive one. I will be very clear with you. That should not stop you from, that should not discourage you from fighting the good fight. That should not discourage you from presenting your values loudly and proudly. That should not that should not stop you from, you know, continuing to organize in your workplace, organize in your communities. But, you know, things are not looking good. Misinformation and disinformation is at an all-time high. Half the country is hallucinating an alternative reality in which Donald Trump is this like patriotic figure who wasn't born with a silver spoon and actually cares about the American population. The other half of the country is also, you know, committed to the idea that the Democratic Party is actually not funding and facilitating a genocide. Things are looking bad, okay? The Democratic Party is now pushed way past the point. The Democratic Party has pushed way past the point on right-wing policies beyond the positions that they had in 2020. They've adopted the framework of the Republican Party on issues like immigration. It's very, very dangerous. I fear that we are basically bouldering towards fascism. I just do think that things will get worse in the short term before they get better.
And you're talking about Donald Trump.
Yeah, just really dire shit. I'll say this much. I think that I believe in my fellow man. I believe in my fellow Americans. I recognize that I think they know what's right and what's wrong deep down inside. Sometimes it is at odds with what the media is presenting. Don't say I don't think that's cope. I do. Like, you look at polls that show that they want a ceasefire, like across the board. Overwhelming majority of people want it. Majority of Republicans want a ceasefire. But if you were to look at the media, it's like, you could never find it, right? You would never find that information. They make it seem as though, I saw this, where is it? They make it seem as though this is like a completely ridiculous position. Anyway, so while they're calling leftist Hitler on air, they're writing sympathy articles about the Israeli occupying force soldiers who can't eat meat because of the fucked up shit they did in Gaza. I know. Let's see how my favorite Brian Kilmeade had to cope with Donald Trump's Hitler statements that he has taken for granted. Let's see what he's saying here.
The bottom line is, if you read H.R. McMaster's book, who is critical of President Trump in some of it and not in others, he talks about how Madison Kelly didn't like the president, and they didn't think he deserved the job, or they didn't think he was worthy of the job, and they went out of his way to make sure a lot of the things they asked him to do that they didn't like never got done. McMaster would be frustrated because he couldn't get their attention, and he would say, it's not your job to rein in the president. It's your job to do what the president wants. And then you factor in the fact that he runs his own company, coming from the business world, the first one we've ever had. It's not even a public company. And then he obviously has frustration. And I could absolutely see him go, now, you know what? It would be great to have German generals that actually do what we asked them to do, knowing that's a third, maybe not fully being cognizant of the third rail of German generals who are Nazis and whatever. But he was frustrated with the...
Wait, what? Yo. Okay, we've moved beyond. This is how it starts, okay? First, there is the double Holocaust theory. Then, first, the American capitalist mind goes to the length of, well, the socialists also did their own Holocaust. Then they say, well, actually, the USSR did things that are significantly worse than the Holocaust. This is a cynical attempt to undermine and engage in Holocaust revisionism, okay? Then the last stage of that is the clean Wehrmacht theory, okay? The idea that, like, well, German soldiers didn't know what they were doing. There was actually a lot of German soldiers who were kind individuals. They were just like unwilling participants in the Holocaust, okay? The last stage of this is just saying that they were good, okay? And that they were right. We are so close. We are so close to prominent figures straight up being like, well, they had some good ideas. What the? Can you stop answering questions and play some music? No.
And I could absolutely see him go, now, you know what? It would be great to have German generals that actually do what we asked them to do, knowing that's a third, maybe not fully being cognizant of the third rail of German generals who are Nazis and whatever. But he was frustrated with the slowdown of
it wasn't just a slowdown. It was insubordination. And there is a culture within Washington, not just when it comes to the generals, who, by the way, should be fired after what happened in Afghanistan, of insubordination in the sense that the bureaucrats run the government. The founders did not design this country to be that way. Unelected people don't get to run the country, even if you have 4 stars behind your name. And I think they were very frustrated that you had this outside guy that says, listen, I'm in charge now.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, the founders didn't design this country with a lot of things in mind, but I won't say it. That's crazy. Oh, can you please stop sending me the Benito Mussolini thing, okay? Have you seen Matt Lieb talk about you? More streamer drama. This is my friend, chat. He's memeing.
Since we are live streaming, and live streaming is, from what I can tell, mostly about conflict engagement. Hasan, I'm taller than you. You may be big.
This is true. He is taller than me. That's not even a joke. I asked him straight up. I was like, do you ball? And he's like, no. Like, what a waste of height, dude. You and Osama bin Laden both. 6'7", no basketball skills. How dare you?
I'll tell you right now, he's a tall dude. But not that tall. 6'6". He's like what, 6'4"? He's got the muscle. Smarter, possibly. I could see that. Whenever I tune into the stream, you'll say a smart thing.
When you come in here, you ask me questions like this, you are basically demanding, like, Hasan, I want you to nut so hard that all of the other subsequent nuts that come after it will actually pale in comparison. You will never nut like that again. And after years and years of trying to attempt that same high, you will inevitably kill yourself because you know that you will deep down inside never achieve that same level of sexual euphoria. I hope that answers your question.
He seems pretty smart, but he's never, ever going to be taller than me. And that is something that you should consider when you're like, oh, who should I support? Have you considered supporting the tallest guy?
True. Streamer drama. Literally word for word, one of my roommates said that most people that became Nazis didn't know the bad parts, that if you, me, were alive during that time, I'd become a Nazi. No, I'd actually rather die next to my comrades than under the boot of a fascist. He then said that's unrealistic. I mean, you don't have to fantasize about what you would be doing in terms of like another genocide occurring, like where you would be in that process. You are literally doing that right now. If you see the genocide in Gaza and you find it to be unconscionable and you work to try and stop it, well, then there you are. You are not a part of the Nazi Germany regime. You're not. The people, on the other hand, that are like, I don't really care about it. Well, they are. They are a part of that, okay? We're living in it. That's it. You are currently in the process. You're currently in the process of like what you would do at the top of the hour. As I've said already, now that my contract is coming to a close, I might not run ads any longer. Having said that, however, in the time frame that I do, you still need to subscribe. And I hope you still subscribe regardless, even if I don't run ads. Okay? Because, you know, even in the absence of a non-contractual obligation, I would still like for you to subscribe. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Uncle Grammy, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Are you going to kick then? Can we still pretend and do segues? Sure. Like, I won't run the ads, but I'll act like I'm still doing ads. I'll stop watching if you get rid of the top of the hour. You'd have to at least do something at the top of the hour. Yeah. Absent serotonin. Thank you for the 10 gifted subs. What's this about your contract ending? Twitch is no longer offering contracts to any streamer. They stopped it a year ago. I was one of the 2 years ago. I was one of the last contracts that they actually gave. I haven't figured out what to substitute it for in terms of like a fun initiative. Crush a watermelon with your thighs once a day at a randomly selected hour to raise your viewer count? Sure. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, but is it not harsh to say someone who's barely making ends meet, working at a dead-end job as part of the Nazi regime for not caring about what's going on in Gaza? What? Dude, okay. You think people weren't suffering financially during the Nazi regime? Like, that's it. That's the same shit, okay? The f*** do you mean? Like, not every single person was like ideologically committed to mass slaughter of people that the Nazi regime considered undesirable. You know what I mean?
Well, first off, because these comments by John Kelly are extraordinary. He is not a man who will be familiar to an awful lot of people, but he was familiar to Donald Trump. He was very, very close to Donald Trump, as close to the inner circle that you could get during part of his first presidency. He's a decorated Marine general for many, many years, but then became chief of staff at the White House. And so he knows precisely how
are historically illiterate. What the
Donald Trump ticks. And he has given this interview both to The Atlantic and to the New York Times, in which he describes in quite remarkable detail of what he thinks Donald Trump is like. And he talks about how Donald
I keep fucking seeing shit on TikTok of people complaining about people voting third party because of being against genocide and how Jill Stein is bad, and the comments never cease to not blame you somehow. I've literally seen 3 videos today with at least 1 or 2 comments talking about you like you somehow encourage people to vote for Jill. I don't care. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's like out of the shit that people lie about me, that is like the least consequential one, okay? That is straight up the silliest one out of everything else.
Donald Trump admired Hitler, that Donald Trump had said in one conversation, we should get some generals like Hitler had. And John Kelly had to ask him, what sort of generals, like Germany had, I should say. And John Kelly said, what sort of generals do you mean by that? And he was talking about Hitler's generals. This is the sort of man that John Kelly says could return to the White House. And I think it adds to what we've heard so much over the course of, in fact, many years. There have been discussions and leaks and quotes in books. But what's different about this is that these former officials of Donald Trump are now speaking on the record. They are speaking openly. We can hear their voices. And he adds to what we've already heard from Mike Pence, the vice president, now completely alienated from Trump world. Rex Tillerson, Bill Barr, John Kelly, as I said, Mark Milley just last week calling him a fascist, Mark Esper, John Bolton, all of these, the inner circle of Donald Trump's first term. Now, I think what is also going on here is that the Harris campaign is clearly shifting its strategy. A few months ago, or a few weeks ago even, the strategy was all about the future, about joy, about the hope that a Harris campaign or a Harris presidency could give to the country. Now they are shifting significantly and talking about the threat to democracy, the threat that Donald Trump poses. I should briefly say that the Trump campaign has reacted to what Kelly said, and they've said that John Kelly is currently suffering from a debilitating case of Trump's derangement syndrome, and they said that President Trump has always honored the service and sacrifice of all our military men